Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I want to talk about Aatrox again and kind of recap on where we're at now that the rework has been out for around about a month now, because I know a lot of people were saying initially, oh, Aatrox is so weak, the rework sucks, it's so bad, and I think now that we've had some time to adjust to it, and now that Aatrox has had a few rounds of buffs, I think we're at a more reasonable spot to actually judge it. So, where are we at now that we're not knee-jerk reacting to the rework? I'd say Aatrox is actually very, very good right now, and I think the rework was overall a success. And this is largely for two reasons. First, Aatrox feels a lot less feast or famine. You definitely, if you get behind, obviously, you can't do things that you could normally do on Aatrox, but it doesn't feel as bad to play him from behind. You can last it a lot more easily with your E. It doesn't feel quite so terrible to have to build tank because you're not that dependent on needing to build damage. There are a lot of things systemically about Aatrox now that just aren't the case that they were before, and that's really nice. The other thing is that because he does have windowed areas of power, right, are able to make Hellbent really, really good. So when you do get that fifth stack of your passive, you do a lot of damage, and you can pretty much become unkillable with only one attack speed item. So this is actually really, really cool. I'm glad to see that we have Aatrox in a good place where he systemically works. Now, kind of got to go through and just talk bit by bit about Aatrox and kind of where he's at the moment. I do feel like his passive still has some issues with clarity. It definitely takes a long time to get to Hellbent, and sometimes you get the revive and sometimes you don't, and it can be confusing to think of, okay, when do I have this, when do I not have this, because you effectively have two different cooldowns to track on the same ability. But I am a fan of how Hellbent works, like I was just talking about before. I think that having the windowed attack speed is a really, really good place for Aatrox to be in, and I do think that in general, it's a lot better for Aatrox to work with. Now, I do think that the biggest issue I have with Hellbent is that you need attack speed to get attack speed, if that makes any sense. It takes a while to get Hellbent if you're just working on the attack speed, Aatrox's base attack speed plus Blade of the Ruin King. But I would say as well that if you had maybe attack speed runes or something, it could be a little bit better, and once you do proc it, you feel quite powerful, so that is kind of nice. The one thing I'm disappointed in is that Guardian Angel will proc before your Bloodwell revive will, and so you'll lose all of your Bloodwell while reviving from GA, and then you revive, and you don't have your other revive up, and that's a bit of a non-bow that I'm not that big of a fan of, but I guess it just means don't build Guardian Angel on Aatrox, not a synergy anymore. Darkflight's cooldown is a lot lower than it used to be, which is really nice, given that that's Aatrox's one engage tool and his best sticking tool. And I do feel like in fights you're reasonably assured to have one or two Darkflights, one to dive on the enemy champion and hopefully another one to follow them up afterwards. So I'm actually a big fan of this. I do think that it helps Aatrox's sticking power and it makes him feel more like a diver as opposed to kind of like a crappier Malphite ultimate. Bloodthirst and Blood Price actually feel really good, especially Blood Price. Before, that was just kind of the ability you use when you didn't need heals, and I guess it kind of worked. But now it does a significant amount of damage for not needing any damage. So this does help Aatrox feel better about building tank because he still can deal damage at the same time, but it also feels really, really good in lane. The W max is actually how you want to play Aatrox in lane now because you just do so much more damage, and the W also helps you get up to Hellbent more quickly, and once you're Hellbent you can kind of Q onto somebody and then go to town with your bonus damage, and you do a lot of damage. You can do like 300 damage in auto when you have Blood Price active, so that's really, really good. Obviously the heals are the heals. It hasn't really changed too much. It's percent missing health, so that feels a little bit better when you're at low health. But and it not being tripled while you're below 50% HP is a lot more balanceable, I guess you could say. Not too much really changed with Blades of Torment. It just kind of does damage and slows, same as it did normally. It's a little bit nicer now to last hit with because it doesn't cost percent health, but it doesn't do quite as much damage. Part of that's because you're doing the W max now, but it doesn't feel quite as good as it used to in lane, so definitely the W max is going to be what you want to do. And finally, Massacre. I was wrong in my first video. It does fill up Bloodwell based on each enemy champion that you hit, which is really nice because that's Aatrox's way to quickly build his Bloodwell if he's in the middle of a team fight. Part of the problem with Aatrox is you have to carefully stack your Bloodwell and make sure you're kind of edging around 3 or 4 stacks, so that way when you start a fight by Bloodwelling or Dark Flighting in, it immediately procs your Hellbent, and then you keep fighting. Now, also remember that every single time you are in combat with an enemy champion, it refreshes. So even if you're just taking damage. So a part of the thing you can kind of do if you're playing against an Aatrox now is if he procs Hellbent, run away, wait for it to wear off, and then go back and fight him. Because if you're trying to fight him in Hellbent, it's going to be a bad time for the most part, especially if he has his revive available. So overall, I will say that the Aatrox rework is a lot better than it used to be. I do like it. It makes him more balanceable. I think overall Riot have done a good job on this, and I would say that he feels fairly strong now. I don't know necessarily if he's broken, but I do think that he's fairly good, and I would not hesitate to play him now. The one thing is that Aatrox's jungle is terrible because Hellbent doesn't refresh on jungle monsters. I believe that's actually going to be patched in 7.8. But we'll go ahead and have to see if that does go through. That'll be, once we get that, I mean, I'll be pretty happy with the Aatrox rework. Like I said, it solved a lot of his issues. It made it more balanceable, and you'll still be able to play him in the jungle once those buffs go through. So just want to talk about that and kind of reemphasize, reworks can be good, they can be bad, but always give it a few weeks before you come to conclusions. I know especially, not a rework, but Ivern's release, everyone thought he was laughably underpowered, and it just took a while for people to figure out his playstyle, and all of a sudden, Ivern was really, really good, and people are thinking, what happened? Well, you just had to figure out how to play him first. So, anyways, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Go ahead and leave your comments on Aatrox down in the comment section below. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on the Darkin Blade and how you've been having success on him recently. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.